Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Malignant!
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone! It's Malignant Day!
My name is David Bell.
My name is Malignant!
And we just watched
Malignant!
The body of Dr. Florence Weaver was found brutally murdered in her home this morning.
Did you know her? No, but I saw her die. I'm seeing things. I'm seeing murders as they're happening.
Oh
my God. This movie was supposed to come out a year ago.
Really?
We could have had this for a year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we could have.
Oh, man. At least I think that's what I was reading. Was that, and I
really?
forget because, you know, everything was supposed to come out in 2020 and got bumped.
Yeah, no, I think it's a safe bet to say this movie was going to come out.
I'm pretty sure this was supposed to come out last August or like last September, and they kicked it the fuck to this time of 2021.
Yeah, in theaters and HBO Max. I highly appreciate it being on HBO Max.
I would have seen this in the theater.
Yeah, because I would have wanted to see it, but
Yeah.
I'm glad now that I've seen it that I didn't have to pay money to see it.
Well,
I would have still paid money to see it.
You didn't have to pay extra money to see it.
Right. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
How did you like Malignant?
Dave, that's a complicated question.
It really is, isn't it?
Because Malignant is a cheesy, schlocky 70s exploitation horror movie.
Yep.
But it's done with the type of chaotic glee that speaks to me on like a fundamental primal level.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this movie, but I recognize that it is very bad.
See, I would say, all right, here's my thoughts on it. I was less because maybe it's because I got so many texts from people being like, "Oh, Malignant, you got to watch it. Look at the end." I wasn't nearly that impressed by this movie, and it mainly has to do with the fact that I think this script is awesome. I think this the idea they were going for. I really respect it.
Well, I'm desperate to have you expound upon that, but please continue.
Okay. Because of what you just said, I think they have the wrong director, which is funny because he also wrote it. He co-wrote it with his wife. Shit, let me find his wife's name because that's worth noting. Ingrid Bisu, and then Akila Cooper, is the other writer.
It's one of the Koopa kids.
Saying it with an accent.
Koopa.
And I honestly, I want to know what they have to say. I'm not saying that James Wan didn't have something to do with the writing. It's just that all on the internet, it's, oh my God, James Wan's Malignant. He's a genius. It's out of control. And I'm like, I kind of feel like he is this work despite him, if that makes sense.
Because sort of, but the thing that people, the thing that everyone is screaming about is 110% James Wan. Like, there's no way, like that.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of people being like, if you don't like this film, it's not that it's a bad film, it's that you didn't understand it. And it's like, no, I understand it. Yeah.
That's not true.
Well, they meant like you don't understand what he was trying to do. Like, what is the style? And he talked about the Giallo style, the
Giallo, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Giallo, yeah, the Dario Argento, like,
yeah, this is not a Giallo.
Exactly. And that's what bothers me is that my problem with this movie is that imagine if Sam Raimi did it. Imagine if Adam Wingard did it.
I think if Sam Raimi did it, it would be very similar.
I think it would be better made though, because the problem I have is James Wan. The first half of this movie is extremely boring.
I disagree that it's boring, but I will say I will agree that the first chunk of this movie feels like something's missing because the twist is very obvious. That
yes,
the twist being that the killer is her conjoined twin. that was removed at birth, or not
Yeah,
at
they
birth.
show it. They show it immediately.
They basically show it. They're not really trying to hide that part of it.
No, the twist is, you put it really well, because I texted you and I was like, I think I know everything that's going to happen. And you're like, even if you do, it doesn't matter.
Right,
because
that's not the thing, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that, spoilers, folks, the twin, which is on the back of her head, knows karate. That's really what it came down to for me.
The twist is that
knew karate.
It's the freak show episode of the X-Files. The twist is that it's not that her conjoined twin is supernaturally murdering people. It's that it crawls out of her body, like its little brain face pushes out the back of her head and controls her body backwards.
This is the part that I really respect, because it's something that I've actually also been trying to pursue, which is the concept of a supernatural horror movie where the reveal is it's not supernatural.
Yes.
It's just so weird that it feels supernatural.
Yes.
So, like, at first she moves like a ghost, and you're like, oh, it's like a ghost. It's not there. And it's like, no, it's just really fast. It's just really fast and flexible. It just flips around like a ninja, which doesn't make any sense, but it's like, cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
They never explain, like, why it can control electricity, any of that shit. My issue is that I think it was written...
They sort of do. They show you in that flashback where they kept doing electroshock when it was out of control, when the twin was out of control.
Right. But that still doesn't explain it.
I mean, it explains it as much as a movie about a brain-faced twin is going to get explained.
The problem is that I think James Wan directed this like a James Wan film, which is to say, I think James Wan is a good horror director. I think he makes very middle-of-the-road stuff. The game with a James Wan horror is usually, where's this jump scare going to come from? Is it going to come from the mirror? Oh, no, he's faking us out. And so on. Mm-hmm. It's your standard, and this needed us. It felt like it was written to be funnier or weirder or like done in a more artistic way, and it just isn't. And so that's kind of what it is that, like, I thought the music was boring. I thought it was shot in a very boring way. It just feels like the screenwriter, who happens to also be James Wan, it felt like when I didn't know it was James Wan who wrote it, I was like, this poor screenwriter. They wrote a clearly comedic film or over-the-top weird film, and then it got passed through this like very normalizing system. And so it feels like people are laughing at the movie when they're supposed to be laughing with the movie.
Sure. I'm going to push back against that a little bit. I think this movie doesn't... There is simply no way this movie does not realize that it is funny.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's the effect. I'm not saying that's the intent. That it because James Wan shot it like a James Wan movie. It just doesn't feel aware. Of course, it's aware. It has to be aware.
Yeah. There are several shots where you're like, you cannot tell me that they don't know this is funny.
Yeah.
I think what it is he took it. It's almost piling concepts on top of each other. This movie is several hats upon several hats in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I think it seems like some of the intention here was to take this movie that's a very schlocky exploitation film from the 70s. This is almost a throwback horror idea because it's so... like, if you changed a few circumstances about this movie would be very offensive.
Right.
But so it's taking an idea like that, and it's playing this over the top thing. It's playing the suspense very straight, which I think is what creates this tone that clearly will strike some people as confusing or not in step with the rest of the actual idea of the movie, because the suspense scenes are very James Wan and are treated very straight. Like the scene where it's stalking the one doctor in his hotel room across the street from the Silvercut place.
Yeah.
Like
it's also not very scary, right? You didn't find it scary,
not
right?
especially, but it's scary in the way that James Wan films are scary, as you pointed out. They're more about... They feel more like conversations with horror fans.
Yeah.
The what I was about to say about this scene where it's the twin is stalking this doctor in his hotel room, nothing happens. Like it's a scene that's all about teasing you what could this, showing you like 6 different places where a jump scare could come from, and then the scene just ends.
Yeah.
And that's pretty classic James Wan. And that's like kind of the speed of like the suspense of this movie is he treats it very straight. He treats it the same way he does in The Conjuring or in Insidious, where the fun is he's leading you through this haunted house and you don't know where the scare actor is going to pop out of.
Right. It's even advertised like it's one of his movies, one of those, which I feel like was a misstep. Because I actually kind of got blue balls from this, because I sat down to be like, all right, time to watch a middle-of-the-road supernatural horror film. And then this was a delight, don't get me wrong. But at the end, I was like, I still kind of want to watch that film.
Yeah.
Like the film where there's like a haunting, and it's just...
Right.
Because...
Yeah, this is like an action horror movie. Like, this is like a comedy action horror movie. It's so... when the cops chasing him through the sewer, I was like, what the fuck are we doing what is
right
this?
now?
Yeah, that's like the big moment where it's like, what kind of movie is this?
Yeah, because why is it running from the cop? And then like now we're seeing it in full view. It also had very like the opening. I was talking to Swaim about this, and Swaim was like, I thought the opening was like a spoof. It was going to pull out and there'd be they're watching another movie, but that was just the opening. Yeah. And the opening's bad. The
opening is great. I defy you that it's bad.
It's got the credits of a mid-2000s film.
Yes. It's so cheesy and...
yeah.
I really like the drive-in schlock aspect of this movie.
I do like the idea of making it because the new schlock is mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the new, like, it's a combination of things. It's that I don't have nostalgia for the mid-2000s. I wasn't young. Mm-hmm. So, like, to me, those were just bad movies. But I can see someone in their 20s now being like, oh, that's so campy and retro, mid-2000s. And it's like, no, it's bad filmmaking.
Well, I think
it's very bad filmmaking.
It's less that this movie is quoting the mid-2000s. It's that the mid-2000s was badly quoting something else.
Yeah, that's true.
And this movie is quoting those things, where it's
I think it's also badly quoting it for a lot of it. I think it really does mishandle it.
I can see what you're saying. I recognize the argument that you're making, but I disagree.
Like, I'm not saying I wasn't delighted when the little ninja face came out, and it's shot very seriously. It's more like I've seen a lot of people like be like, "This is going to be a cult classic. This is going to be." People don't understand it.
Yeah.
I think this is just going to be Orphan. Like, I think it's just going to be one of those where it's like, oh my God, remember that dumb movie? And I think that's a disservice to what they were trying to do, which is why I think they failed. Like, it's like, that's unfortunate to me that this movie probably will be reduced to a meme. Because I do respect, again, what they were out to do. I just don't think they shot it correctly to make it. Like, I don't think your average audience member is going to think that they're just dummies, that they just made a bad movie.
Maybe. I think this movie might have a better chance in Orphan because it's much more visible than Orphan was. Like, that's
true.
They're pushing this as an event because it's James Wan. It's this big horror movie. But this is the type of horror movie that does not normally get positioned like this. You don't push a movie like this. This is a fucking weird movie.
It really is.
And I love the idea of sort of middle of the road horror fans, like people who would have been really into the stuff in the mid 2000s, and just going to see a movie like this, expecting like the next Conjuring movie, and it's this bug fuck bananas drive-in schlock film that James Wan is making with the skill and budget of a dude who makes Aquaman, a guy who makes a $2 billion superhero movie, but he's making this gonzo slasher goofball schlock fest. I don't sense as much of a disconnect between the execution and intent as you do. That's where I'm getting stuck, I think.
Right. Here's what it is that when we covered Aquaman, I think we compared James Wan to Spielberg in that. podcast, right?
We might have. It's been like 3 years. You realize?
Yeah, but I actually think James Wan is at his most powerful, because I should note, none of this is against James Wan as a director. I think he's actually, like, Aquaman was the time where I was like, it's very rare that I do this with a horror director. I was like, ooh, make more adventure films, James Wan, because I actually think that's where his strength is. Mm-hmm. Not in horror, but in like action adventure. And so, to me, this is like take Spielberg and try to have Spielberg make a really weird film. He probably would struggle because the way he makes movies it's a Spielberg movie, you know? Like, and that's what it felt like. It felt like someone who was making something that was very abstract or surreal or weird, but their style was just so middle of the road, so normal, that they couldn't do it justice.
This reminds me, it's not okay. This reminds me a little bit of What Lies Beneath. Okay, because that's another example of a very big, very commercial director, Robert Zemeckis, with kind of an established style, you know, an established vocabulary, so to speak, that he works with, making a very specific type of genre film that uses a lot of homage, like Hitchcock homage and stuff like that, like a lot of techniques that aren't normally in his bag of tricks. Right. I think What Lies Beneath is a little bit more successful because it's more Zemeckis modified his style more to fit with the movie he was trying to make instead of vice versa.
Is a better director.
Yeah, I'm just this conversation we're having is making me think of that, because that's an example of the opposite thing where the director adjusted his style to fit the movie, whereas this movie sort of had to be fit into James Wan's style and not vice versa.
It's like if a better example, I think, is someone like Tarantino or someone like Wes Anderson, where like they can't not make the Wes Anderson or Tarantino film. You have to give them the right script. If you gave Tarantino a horror script, I guess, which technically Death Proof is, but it's still like he just can't help it. He can't help it. He has to make the movie he wants to make, and sometimes it I think hurts the point of the movie he's making, but that's a different conversation. I think James Wan is no different. It's just that his style is less flamboyant. It's less noticeable. Mm-hmm. And so he couldn't not make a James Wan horror movie, but I actually think, that hurt it a lot. Can I ask you a question about the plot real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Did you recognize that the mom in the attic was a different person?
Than who?
Than the main character. They looked so fucking alike. That took me a while to figure out.
Yes, Dave, because that actress is about 25 years older than our main character.
The same, because he lit her so dark.
They look very similar, and that is obviously the intent.
That's the point.
I did not. But I mean, I think you're supposed to notice
because I've talked to multiple people who are like, I thought it was the same person because they didn't light it.
Well, you know how time and age works, where if somebody's older, they look older. Like,
I wasn't paying attention. They're so white. They're both white ladies with black hair.
Like very often, I find if you watch the movie, it answers a lot of the questions you have.
This isn't just me. That's the thing.
This is a general response to all of those people as well. Okay. If you just watch the movie, it'll often answer what you're asking.
All right. Also, did you find the mom's stuff incredibly weird and dumb? Because again, another moment that should have been a comedic moment. So the mom. Should we explain what this movie is and what happens in it?
Sure. Okay.
A woman is her abusive boyfriend husband.
It's her husband. Once again.
He slams
once again.
He slams her head.
It will tell you this information.
Yeah, he slams her head into the wall. She locks the door. That night he sleeps on the couch. He gets murdered by some sort of
horse apparently. Like he gets horse murdered.
He gets horse murdered,
like,
but it's
trampled. Like his bones are sticking out in all these weird directions.
Right away, the killer looks like her. It's like a long-haired dark. So I was like, oh, it's like her, or maybe like her baby is manifesting. The movie's called Malignant. And then she loses the baby. She also gets attacked by it, which doesn't make too much sense when you know what happened in the movie, but whatever.
I mean,
and then this is intercut with then a woman who's giving a tour of the underground of Seattle. She gets attacked by the same creature, which turns out to be Voldo from Soul Calibur, right?
Essentially,
like
yeah.
it has a Voldo knife, and it looks and acts like Voldo. There's this reveal that she had an imaginary friend as a kid named Gabriel, that seems to be back. And she starts witnessing the murders that Gabriel is doing. The cops suspect her, as they would, although they're very loosey-goosey about it. She sees one of the murders, and then she's like, all right, did I get this right? She's like, go find the victim. I swear he is there. If he's not, you can handcuff me. Does she say that?
I don't remember that specific line, but she does send them to that doctor's apartment.
But she they don't believe her, and she's like, you can handcuff me if I'm wrong. And I was like, you can handcuff her if she's right. Right?
Well, I think
because then she knows the murder happened, but whatever.
They're not taking her seriously at that point.
Yeah. So the cops are working with her.
Yeah. So that, because remember, there's a whole beat about like using a psychic. They just don't believe her, and they think she's wasting their time.
Right, but it's weird that they don't just arrest her anyway when they find that guy's body. But they do eventually. It just takes them a little more convincing for some reason. And so then it becomes like this hunt where the cop sees Gabriel, and Gabriel starts becoming like a physical thing. He chases Gabriel down into the Seattle underground. Yeah. Meanwhile, a woman who worked the tour of the Seattle Underground is kidnapped. She's in a attic of some sort.
Yes.
And that's what and so throughout the movie she's just trying to escape. Then Jesus, just more murders. I want to get to the part where the woman who's been kidnapped gets out, takes 2 steps, and just breaks through the attic floor for no reason, falls like 3 stories and dies right in the main character's living room while the cops are there.
She's in a coma.
Oh, you're right. She basically dies,
Yeah,
Tom. That is one step away from dying.
Dude, there's a whole... The fact that she's not dead is a significant plot point. Did you watch these movies?
No, I know. She wakes up in the hospital and gives a bunch of exposition. No, I know, because that's her only use. That is the dumbest moment I've seen in a while. Because I can't stress this enough. The woman gets out. She takes 2 steps, and by pure coincidence, the floorboards are bad.
Yeah.
And she just it was one of those where, it's a moment that I think was supposed to be funny, but they don't really treat it that way. Nobody screams or reacts to her body except for the main character. It's just very weird. So then they're learning slowly that, this was her biological mother. She was adopted. And then they suspect her. They're like, you're clearly doing the murders. You kidnapped this woman. She's in your attic. They put her in jail, and that's when we get the reveal that, no, she had a creature living on the back of her head when she was born, and the doctors basically cut the creature off, but then pushed some of it just into her brain. Like, that should be fine.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing talking, and that she's not seeing the murders. She's being kept dormant in her brain while her body commits these murders.
Yeah, she is seeing them. It's because she is an unwilling participant in them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically this little brain face pushes its way out of the back of her head and drives her backwards. So every time you see Gabriel, it's a person walking backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you do notice, but I was just like, it's Voldo. I didn't.
Yeah, you notice it. I mean, it's all like we said at the top. That's not the reveal of the movie because it's all there. That's called Malignant. The killer clearly walks backwards every time. Every time there's a murder, she wakes up and the back of her head has been bleeding again. So you know that it's a conjoined twin murdering people. The surprise is that it's a brain face that pushes its way out of the back of her skull and literally pilots her body backwards.
Yeah, and the surprise I think is also how the fact it happens. We first see it in the jail, and there's all these other ladies like beating her up in the jail cell, being real like
one of whom is Zoe Bell.
Movie, yeah, being real movie prisoners,
real movie gang, yeah,
yeah. and she kills them all, and it's like this big wild fight. The cop for some reason shoots like through the bars, so the cop gets got. And then she gets the keys and then like kills all the cops in this amazingly fun sequence.
It's
well
delightful.
Shot, well done, not scary, mind you.
No, this is not scary. This is not a scary film.
I don't think it meant it was.
No.
I think it was meant to scare you in the first half.
Maybe because when that woman gets abducted, for example, and she's chained up in the attic. And the murderer kills his first victim, which is that doctor who's the lady from Deep Blue Sea.
Right.
He comes back with like her like surgeon's award that he sharpens into a knife, and that's what he uses as a weapon for the rest of the movie.
Right.
So he's having a brief scene with her, and this is in like the first half of the film, as it's still like doing the suspenseful murder mystery aspect of it. And the woman says a couple of words to him, and he says something like "shut up" and throws his knife at her, and it stabs into the wall next to her.
Yes.
And all we can see is the giant words "excellence" on the side of that sword.
That's
fucking
the thing.
Sword that says "excellence."
That does seem like a funny moment. They don't treat it like one.
I mean, I think it's. I think that's maybe. Because he's deciding to play some of it so straight, maybe it's just we're so in tuned and expecting it to be a Conjuring movie that when he's doing the same thing but it's meant to be tongue-in-cheek, it's not landing.
Right. He breaks all the rules of horror, I think intentionally, where it's like once we're seeing the ghoul so close and constant, it's like, oh, okay, that's not the type of movie it is. It's almost like he wants it to be like a crime thriller.
Yeah.
Like a Silence of the Lambs or a Seven. But again, his style kind of gets in the way most of the time, where it doesn't feel like the jokes, the funniness or the weirdness is landing fully.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does feel like it's a script trying to be normal. That's the thing, is I get it where it's like, there's something to be said about, I'm going to play this really straight and then people will laugh at the movie, and that's the intent, is to be like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe it's taking itself so seriously. The problem is that I don't think it goes far enough. Like, it's too, like, the first half, the characters are rather boring. Again, it's shot very standard, very jump scary, all the usual things. And so it's like, I almost feel like he could have had more fun with it, or done something a little weirder, or had characters that, like, were a little more, I don't know, charismatic, had actual jokes. Like, I think he went too far then. And so it just feels like a James Wan movie that is...
I mean,
like,
maybe, I don't know. We don't know enough about him as that type of director, so maybe this is just what he thinks is funny. Like you're describing Scream, but maybe that's not what his intent was.
Right. I know. Whatever it was, though, I think ultimately it didn't work.
Yeah.
I think it didn't fit. Like, I know his intent because he said his intent.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was making those Giallo films, and like, it's like, okay, well, this isn't that. Like, that's not what, like, you didn't make that.
I could see how on the page it might have seemed like it could have been one of those,
right.
But that's not really what this is.
Right. And so I think ultimately it fails, because it is hard to define. I almost want to watch it again to figure out exactly what's going wrong here, but something's going wrong. I think... Again, it pulls more for me of like mid 2000s, late 90s horror. Like The Hospital looks like no other hospital that's ever existed. It reminded me of the House on Haunted Hill.
Oh, right, but that itself was a remake of a, you know.
Yes, but again, I'm talking about the art direction in the House on Haunted Hill remake, where it's this big dumb gothic building that never would exist. They do the same with this, where like the moment you see that hospital, that's why I think like That's why I think Michael assumed, oh, this is a fake movie within a real movie. Because you see that hospital, and you're like, that's dumb. That's not what hospitals actually look like. We're past that.
It's so over the top and in your face.
Right, but not in a way. Yeah, but it's not shot in a way that reflects that.
It's not. So it's never winking at you.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. I just mean also the lighting and stuff. Like it's a very drab film. Like it's blue and gray.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and it's like, yeah, if you're gonna make a movie that's supposed to copy this style, you got to shoot it that way, because there are visual cues that will make the audience kind of feel like they understand what kind of movie they're watching. And I don't think he ever does that. He just shoots it very straight, and it's kind of a bummer. It's kind of disappointing, and I think that's why I think that's why a lot of people just think this is just a shitty movie. It's getting low audience scores. I know that.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it has to do with expectation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other part. Is it's shot and it was advertised like a James Wan ghost movie.
Right, and that is not what it is. And he doesn't make it clear that he's playing in this film.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing, though. I don't know whose fault that is, because if you make a movie like this that clearly lets everyone in on the joke, it changes the kind of movie it is. So maybe that just, maybe that wasn't his intent. Maybe his idea, like maybe what was funny to him about this was treating it so straight and watching people slowly realize that he's fucking with them. Maybe that was the goal here. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like to me like a practical joke, because I guess what it comes down to me is when I walk out of a movie, the things that stick with me are specific shots and moments in the filmmaking. Mm-hmm. That's what makes a movie impressive to me. That's why I was like, this movie feels like a meme, because I don't actually remember anything good in the way the movie was made. It's just that they did something that was batshit crazy.
Yes.
That's it. And that to me doesn't equal a good movie.
No.
It just, like, it's why, again, I'm like, I feel like it's a failure. I think, yes, people will remember this movie, but not because it's a good movie, because it just did something really wacky. And it's like, ultimately, that feels like a little lazy, I guess.
A little bit. I appreciate, like I said at the top, I recognize this is a bad film. I love it with all of my heart. And a big part of the reason why I love this movie is because of that chaotic sort of like the punk rock idea of sneaking this bug shit movie
absolutely
into like a big budget Warner Brothers James Wan supernatural horror movie, and you go and see it and it's fucking this. That is incredible to me.
Right. I've seen a lot of people kind of talk about that aspect of like, James Wan could have made anything. He had a blank check and he made this. Much respect. And it's, again, yes, I respect the idea. I wish they did it better.
Sure. I guess I think the disconnect, or I don't know, we're kind of failing to meet is, how would you have done it? Like, what would you have changed to make this better? Like, would it have been more clear? Like, I legitimately don't know.
I would have given it to someone like David Robert Mitchell. I would have given it to someone who has a very uniquely weird style, who can make a movie, or again, an Adam Wingard, who can make a movie that winks at you but doesn't. Adam Wingard is very good at being like playful, but still having the movie take itself seriously. I think it's really just James Wan's style hurt this script ultimately. I think I think the first half was just like, that's the thing, is I didn't really enjoy watching this movie. I found it, again, mostly like it wasn't scary because it wasn't trying to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't funny. It was kind of funny at times, but where it's like I didn't know if that was a real joke. It was mostly like serious people talking, and then something crazy happens for the last act, and that was entertaining, and then the movie was over. But one of my first thoughts was, and this isn't This actually, I don't think is what they should have done, but it was one of my first thoughts is like, that should have happened in the first act. I would have appreciated the whole movie being this, her dealing with this. And we knew, like a movie like Idle Hands, where it's just like, my hand is killing people, and then we get to have fun with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If it was like, the back of my head is killing people, and then she spent the whole film trying to deal with it and fight it. It's that, because just the first 2/3 of this movie are just so whatever.
I think you hit it on the head earlier, is that the execution or the direction he chose to do this movie is practical joke.
Yes.
Because this movie is entirely about the surprise of what it actually is. So it conceals that for as long as it possibly can in the shell of a big budget James Wan horror movie.
Yes, exactly. And the problem is that part of it, though, here's the thing, is that first half in the shell of a James Wan horror movie still isn't a James Wan horror movie, because it's still not, like, as well done, I don't think. Like, I don't think it's, like I enjoy The Conjuring throughout. I think the scares in The Conjuring are really well done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The scares in this weren't well done leading up to it. So it's like a bad James Wan horror movie. Up until the point that it becomes what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, there wasn't a single thing in this that, like, made me go, ooh, you know, like, whoa, what a cool idea for a scare, or what an interesting shot. You know, it was just all, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, it's not batshit, it's just sort of okay.
Yeah, it's drive-in melodrama. Yeah, and that the reality of making a schlocky drive-in exploitation horror movie is that you're also going to have all the things that make those movies bad.
Right, but you could,
there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it to, like, avoid the pitfalls of those films, but this movie does not.
He could have shot the scares better, like the part where the husband gets killed, the part with the dude at the hotel where they get killed. Those could all be scenes that were shot better. That's what it is.
I liked the hotel scene. I actually thought the hotel scene was effective.
It was fine. It was still, to me, just the game of where's the monster going to be.
Yeah,
is it going to be in the ceiling? Is it going to be behind the door? Is it going to be under the bed? And then the scene was over, and I just didn't.
There was some fun stuff in there, like when he does the reverse, like he does the searcher shot, and that's not normally the point of view that you see in a scene like this.
Right.
For instance.
And then, like, the character. I don't care about this guy. He's not doing anything.
No, it doesn't matter. He's just
a guy going to bed.
Like, he's not doing anything. Victim. Yeah.
Yeah, but they could use, like, for example, okay, you have one scene with one guy. Make it interesting. Give him something weird that he's doing. Have him give a little story. You know what I mean? Like, it's that little things where it's like, I think they could have had a lot more fun with, while we're waiting for the twist, while we're waiting for it to lose its mind, why not have a little fun? And he doesn't really. He doesn't have much fun. And so it's just kind of boring until the thing happens. It's not terrible, but it's just like, meh. And so that's what I mean by, like, giving it to a weirder director, or a director that can take those moments and make them a slow burn, or make them interesting, or make them really shot in a compelling way. Something to keep my attention while we wait. Because, like, I wouldn't have, but I can see a lot of people shutting off this movie before it even gets to the part. Because it's just kind of like, meh, until that moment.
It does hit a moment before the big fun part, where I was thinking to myself, it's like, man, where is this movie going?
Yeah. Because it doesn't, it needed, like, a fake mystery. It needed something to keep you wanting to watch it. And it just wasn't enough of, like, people going to archives and watching VHS tapes of people saying exposition, and, like, cops just sort of, walking around. I don't know. That's the broad idea of what it's trying to do. I think is interesting. It's not fun to watch for most of it. And it doesn't try to be that fun. And so, like, again, I think it's a failure. I think there's a better way to do this, that would have still had the point intact, which is that it's like a practical joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really comes down to make the scary parts better. Like just shoot it better. I don't know. It's such a broad note, but it was just like I wasn't impressed or scared by any of the things before it happened. So by the time it happened, I was just it was fun, but it was also just such a fraction of the movie. So I don't know, man.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like it's just it was a little disappointing. I don't know.
Sure. No, as far as I'm concerned, no other movie exists anymore.
Sure.
Just the last 20 minutes of Malignant. That's the only film that needs to be preserved. If that's the if that's the only footprint that humanity leaves, I think that's fine.
Yeah, honestly, that's how I would recommend people watching this. Just watch the end. I like just watch the end and assume that what you had watched is a middle of the road, unsuspecting horror movie up until that point, because that's the joke.
Yeah, that's the gag.
Yeah, it just takes so fucking long. It really is like a practical joke.
Yes, no, that's
and I kind of do respect
that.
that.
Yeah, that is absolutely what it is.
Right.
Yeah,
but like all practical jokes, it's like practical jokes don't tend to last 2 hours.
Yes.
And the first part of any given practical joke is pissing off the audience or pissing off the person you're doing the practical joke on.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. That's accurate. Yeah. This is the Terrence and Phillip episode of South Park.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's basically like, they're like, oh, you thought you were watching a mediocre horror movie, but you're actually watching this. And it's like, yeah, but that required me watching an hour and 20 minutes of a mediocre horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, indeed, I am the punk. Thank you. Yes, you're correct. I have been punked. I am the punk here.
So you have successfully punked me.
Yep.
James Wan. Yeah. I don't know, man. That's all my thoughts on Malignant.
Yeah, no, I love this film.
Good. I'm glad you do. I think you have a healthy relationship with it, in that you understand why it's bad too. So
yeah, no, I understand why it's bad. Yeah, I'm not going to be out here being like, you just didn't get it. No,
no. Yeah, there's a lot of people online who seem convinced that it was like
it's like some
it went over
thing.
people's heads.
No, it didn't go over anybody's head, motherfucker. It's not
one
that
of the things,
complex.
Yeah, it's one of the things a lot of artists need to hear, and I have heard said to me, which is, no, I get it. I just don't think it's good. And it's like, okay, like that. Sometimes that needs to be said, which is like, no, you're not making some like
you're not blowing minds here, pal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like, no, it wasn't lost on me. It just, I didn't like it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see more of these other screenwriters. For sure. I want to see what else these two ladies can write. And I guess James Wan, but like, he's kind of had his shot.
Yeah, we've seen.
That's why I'm pointing out the other screenwriters, because it's like, this is the weirdest thing he's done. And so I'm like, it must be these other two. Like, I'm sure he also had a hand in it, but like, everything else he's written has been pretty fucking normal.
Yeah, relatively. Yeah, that's true.
Relatively. I just assumed they were the batshit element. I don't know.
No, that's
maybe
fair.
it was a myth.
Say what?
Although did he write the Saws? No, Lee
Winnell did.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, I'm sure he had input. They were, collaborators on it. So, but anyway, I don't have anything else to say. We can be done. That can be an episode.
Hey, folks, thanks for listening.
Woo!
Thanks for listening to our voices. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on it, you can find exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder's a Maniac and Star Trek The Next Futurama. That's $5 a month. You get all those shows every month. Like some of them are weekly, some of them are bi-weekly. You understand how things work. And if you want to kick in a little more, we watch movies with our patrons every Friday night, etc., etc. Go look. You'll love it.
You'll love it.
You'll love it.
We also have a store. Head on over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find the link to our Teespring store. We have t-shirts, stickers, mugs, posters, all kinds of things. So check that out.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Check it out. And
name your firstborn Malignant.
Yeah. Do that.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why the fuck would you not do that?
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah, it really is. It's classic. It's very traditional.
Yeah.
It evokes past generations.
Right. It makes you think of tumors, which is what babies are.
Mm-hmm.
They're terrible.
Mm-hmm. They really
Don't
are
have
the
babies.
worst. Why would you do that? Yeah.
If you're out there, stop it. Stop with the babies.
Stop with the babies. Make with the babies.